What are some huge green flags that are often overlooked? When you are not afraid to disagree with them, because you know they'll actually listen rather than just hurting you. General mindfulness. The little things you don't really notice if you don't pay attention. Pushing a chair in after sitting in it. Asking questions and being involved with you. You can learn a lot about somebody by paying attention to how they listen. And having a partner that listens is an absolutely amazing feeling. There is a huge gap between being aware of what you're saying and understanding what you're saying. A good listener is priceless. My boyfriend will sometimes be upset and start a sentence with "well you," and then takes a second and starts over with "I feel." I notice every time and I try and be the same way. Someone reading a book you recommend. That's commitment of free time and respect for your word. When they don't make you feel guilty for occasionally wanting to do things by yourself. When you're talking with someone and they remember what you're talking about or were talking about at one point. Another one is when they remember that you've done certain things with them and bring it up from time to time. Other than that, it's the normal stuff that shouldn't be overlooked, or the little things, I guess. When someone is quick to give credit and slow to place blame. Such a great sign that someone will celebrate other people and appreciate/acknowledge them. And will be really kind and benevolent when something bad happens. Bangladesh. Using that weird flashy light on your car before you merge or turn. Admitting when they don't understand something and asking questions about it until they do. A few years ago I was at a party with a friend of mine. And another friend of a friend who is a physicist who worked for a startup that produced specialized magnets for quantum computing. My friend asked the startup guy about his work. And he explained it. And everybody else in the room just nodded and acted like they knew what he was talking about. But she said, "I don't understand. Can you explain that a different way?" And he did. And then she kept asking questions for quite a while. And by the end of it we actually all did understand what his company did instead of just being polite and pretending we did. And it was super interesting. A couple of people thanked her afterward basically for having the self-confidence to admit she didn't have any clue what he was talking about and not being afraid it would make her look dumb. Because the rest of us were all content to pretend we knew instead of actually taking the initiative to find out. I respected her so much for that. Putting their rubbish in the bin when they leave a place like Macca's/Hungry Jack's/KFC/fast food places. Like honestly. A child knows how to put their rubbish in the bin. Why are you leaving your rubbish everywhere if you're a grown adult? People doing kind or generous things they don't expect praise for. Like secret gifts or acts of service. Giving people the benefit of the doubt. And not being so quick to hate and hold grudges. One mistake or one bad day does not define a person. Smiling when you make eye contact with people briefly. Then you mutually smile back. Some old guy said hey to me while we were passing. That was just magical. Makes me want to do that myself. Edit. You can smile at people and not make it awkward. Smiling at people can be one of the most refreshing and socio-positive thing that you can do. If you feel uncomfortable doing it, it's fine. You will get used to it. This was a good experience. Don't comment on how an elderly person smiling at me is considered a red flag. Or creepy. It didn't make me uncomfortable. Honesty early on. When my husband and I started dating, I told him how much I wanted to see a certain movie. And for one of our first dates, he invited me over to watch said movie. And said he'd make dinner for me. I was a little nervous to go. Because I figured he'd meant watch a movie. I get inside. He's got pasta cooking. And the movie is all set up and ready on his TV. We ate terrible pasta. Watched a movie. And that was the day I decided to keep seeing him, but that I'd do the cooking. I never realized what I was missing until I got with my current GF. It's being able to talk about bad stuff. I had a breakdown and apologized for it. The first thing she told me is to please never apologize for feeling bad. It was such a special thing for me. And when I told people about this, they told me this is how it's supposed to be. Being able to feel bad and not be afraid they'll be any less in love with you because of it. My very first silver. I feel honored. I was told many years ago that when you're on a date with someone and you bring them to your vehicle and let them in the passenger side door, if they lean over and unlock the driver's side door for you, it means they actually care about you. This was of course before automatic door locks were made standard in most cars. Being okay to tell you that they are nervous or scared. If a guy tells me he's either nervous or scared of something, it usually means that they like you enough to be vulnerable and open up about how they feel. Usually guys get made fun of for being nervous and even more so for being scared. But I see it as a total green flag. Staying calm while driving and not screaming and calling names when someone drives a bit slower. Asking you how you're doing/feeling. It was weird for me to go from a moderately abusive man, and not even being bothered by it. It was normal, to an amazing man, my husband. He asks me how I am, and genuinely wants to know. It's done my mental health wonders to know that he actually cares about me. And it's the smallest thing he could possibly do. And, since he's also a Redditor, husband, if you're reading this, I love you. Not being on the ducking phone answering texts or whatever when you go out on a date with this other person. Actually engaging with you 100 of the time. I would understand having to answer a text from a boss or something super important. But it's not the same as constantly checking FB notifications and whatnot. Asking if you ate today. I know it's super simple, but it shows they genuinely care about you and want you to know you're happy and have a full belly. Or they are planning on eating you. It's a 50-50ths. I'm very glad I found this thread. It's helping break the rose-colored glasses for certain people in my life. Respecting boundaries without being told to respect them. The friendly guy having a normal conversation with you is often the better bet than a guy who is hitting on you. Moving their depleted water glass closer to the edge of the restaurant table so the server doesn't have to reach to refill it. ITT. Actions that should be considered normal behavior but are considered extraordinary because the bar for society has been set so low. When you can be together without interacting. For example, my boyfriend and I love hanging out together and watching anime. But when we see one another, it's also enjoyable to know they're with you, but you can do your own thing and still enjoy their company. Perhaps you both scroll through Reddit and pause to show a funny meme to each other. In that scenario, you're just calmly relaxing and enjoying their presence. One of the first things I realized about my now husband was that he never gossiped. Like he just never has anything mean to say about people. It really helped me stop being such a gossip over the years, haha. When someone takes care of themselves emotionally during difficult discussions, rather than reacting and personalizing what you've said. This requires a strong ego and it's honestly rare. If someone can do this, keep them. A large gas station with many lanes that's quiet and doesn't subject customers to video advertising while pumping. When someone interrupts you and they say to you, "What were you about to say?" after the snack that interrupted you is finished. The number one with my second and current husband, and in sharp contrast to my first husband, was when there is a problem. His response is not to determine who to blame, but rather is to find a solution to the problem. We have been together for several years and have yet to have an argument. This is something we are trying to teach my kids, who grew up under the impression that all disagreements must become arguments, and the solution to a problem is to point the blame at someone. If you live with people, being nice to your roommates, potential partners/hookups have some incentive to be nice to your friends, because they know you'll probably listen to your friends if they tell you your partner sucks. But a roommate might not have that much influence over you. So a person who's just faking being considerate might drop the act around them. When we were still casually dating, my now boyfriend brought my roommate snacks just because. Always checked if we were watching the TV too loud, etc. And years later, he's still one of the most considerate people I know. Watch how a man treats his dog and his mother. They are two things that unconditionally love him, and how he treats them is a huge tell. When you ask a detailed or personal question to someone to get to know them better, and they ask the same one or similar back, so many people have a very narcissistic response to keep the conversation about them or to not put the equal effort to get to know the other person. It's a huge green flag I look for when deciding whether to trust someone and let them in my life. When they can learn from and laugh at hard times. I just can't stand those cynical defeatist types. From my experience, the more bitter someone is about their past experiences with an ex, or their family life for instance, the higher the chance that they've learned absolutely nothing from it, and have no intention to get better. I try my hardest to find the good in everything. If I'm not growing or learning, then I at least try to enjoy myself. I'm not always great at it, but I try, and I'm a better person for it. Life is short. Get over it. If they push you to get help. I've had anxiety issues for 7 years. I don't always notice how abnormal and constant it is now because of how bad it was when it first started. Last week, one of my friends asked me if I had ever thought about going to the doctor and had to explain to me that the amount of anxiety that I feel on a daily basis isn't normal. Thanks to her, I've started looking into doctors and realized that I don't have to constantly feel anxious and waiting for something to go wrong. She apologized that she hadn't told me sooner because she thought I knew how bad it was.